All right, so I'm talking today about the lunar eclipse in Capricorn, 5 July 2020. Let's dive into this moment in time and to the symbolism of the chart and see what we can find. This is the dateandtime.com website. Very good to tell you information about eclipses. So there's a wide range of visibility with this eclipse. It's worth noting that in the Vedic tradition, you don't want to go out into that eclipse light. So I'm not even advocating that you do that. But this is just maybe to know where you might need to avoid eclipse light. So if you're living in North America, South America, parts of Africa, parts of Europe, you might want to say, hey, I'm not going to go out to that moon. Tetrabiblos, Ptolemy, we always come back to Ptolemy, right? Chapter 2, book 5. He has this statement. He says, the strongest and principal cause of all these events exist in the eclipses. The eclipses are the moments that sort of move reality forward. And he's talking here in a mundane astrological context, so the astrology of cities and countries. And I've seen it over and over again with clients that, the eclipses really time and activate sectors of a chart. And there's this fatedness that comes with eclipses. So I was calling them here on Twitter the great transformers of the sky, and that they bring kind of unexpected change. They transform things in our life or parts of our chart that we couldn't often see. So sometimes we leave jobs or find lovers or, matters of the heart. These sort of important soul features of reality can emerge and change with these eclipses in the eclipse cycle. During a total lunar eclipse, the moon gets this red sheen, this idea of change, right? It's this difference. It's this wild kind of moment where reality is not normal. It's not what it usually is. This is a penumbral eclipse, the one here on 5 July 2020. The moon is far away from the south node here. You might be able to detect a dark shading, but it's not a full, total red moon eclipse. This is the last eclipse in the Capricorn Cancer eclipse cycle. And this started on 13th July 2018 and will end on 5 July 2020. Now, what's ending or beginning in your life? Was there something over the last 2 years that really changed the way you operate? And if you know the Capricorn sector of your natal chart, you can explore that house topic. Ketu, this is from Kamala Sutton, the Vedic astrologer. She writes that Ketu has no head, therefore it feels with the heart and reacts instinctively, emotionally, intuitively, rather than with the intellectual analysis of conscious thought. So there's a sense here that this eclipse is about more intuitive responsiveness and emotional responsiveness. The Capricorn Cancer eclipse cycle is ending, yes, but Saturn has just ingressed back into Capricorn and will be there spending its last few months in Capricorn this cycle until December. And so there is kind of more lingering opportunity to examine that activated Capricorn in your chart. I always like to go to Dan Rudyard because of his just really insightful and unique and kind of idiosyncratic way that he takes a look at zodiac signs. This is from his book, The Pulse of Life. And he writes about Capricorn really representing transformation of scattered and disintegrated remains from a previous cycle being kind of reorganized into what he calls a new organic whole. And I think that's really insightful because Capricorn's an earth sign, and you can think about decay. It goes into that earth and then feeds that new growth. Because these eclipse cycles are ending, because Saturn is going to be finishing its time in Capricorn this go around, and because this is an eclipse, what is being transformed? What's dying? And that death can fuel this next phase of growth in your life. And that's this kind of Capricorn mythology. All right, let's go into the chart. So Saturn in Capricorn is going to square Mars in Aries, right, during this eclipse. This aspect lasts until mid-December. This lunar eclipse is the first syzygy activation of this great Saturn in Capricorn, Mars in Aries square that we'll be living with for the next several months, the next 6 months. And so it's this great kind of squaring off of two very powerful planets, potentially at odds with each other. Saturn is in better zodiacal position earlier in the sky in Capricorn, earlier in the ecliptic in Capricorn. And so I think Saturn wins. And I was calling this on Twitter that there's a slow burn that's going to be happening as a result of this restrictive Saturn energy. And so it's better to adjust now to a slow burn rather than raging at it. And we see this with maybe things like lockdowns that are returning, travel's restricted. Instead of raging, why can't I do? It's better just adjust. Hey, Saturn is what needs your focus and attention and energy. Saturn is the great ruler right now of the sky. Saturn signifies seafaring in the ancient tradition, and this is that great meme where the pirates take over the ship and And then the lead pirate says, "Look at me, I'm the captain now." And that's how I see Saturn's operation currently in the sky. Saturn came back to Capricorn. Saturn's now co-present with Jupiter. Saturn's squaring Mars and Aries, and Saturn's saying, "Hey, I'm the captain. You need to pay homage to me." It requires submission to its dictates. So whatever's restricted in your life right now, be grateful for it. This is Saturn saying, "Hey, you need to look here at this area of life. You don't need to travel. You need to stay put, and you need to go inside or focus on the work you can do where you're at." So what can you do where you're at? I think it's this great Saturnian question, and then get busy doing. As Saturn comes back into Capricorn, it's going to bring support to Jupiter, who's been feeble there because Jupiter's in fall in Capricorn. And now Jupiter will be co-present with Saturn. So I think Jupiter has extra power now to lean into Saturn. I'm calling this the Jupiter and Capricorn struggle story. But this is the final months of that struggle story. Jupiter leaves Capricorn in December with Saturn. Start kicking up a little bit of what Jupiter wants to do in our nativities and what Jupiter's doing in the sky. This next few months is going to give us a chance, as we're getting closer and closer to Jupiter's ingress into Aquarius, to start thinking about our dreams and hopes and the Jupiterian things in our life. Jupiter signifies hope, and I was thinking about Andy Dufresne, the character from Shawshank Redemption. He says hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. So even now with our Jupiter struggle story, hope isn't dead. It's never going to die. No one can kill hope. It lives in the human heart. But what can we remain hopeful about even in midst of this very difficult cardinal cross struggle of the next 6 months, this Saturnian dominance in the sky? Hope is living in you, and it's important to remember that and realize that. But the Egyptian term of the eclipse moon is Jupiter. So again, I think it's an opportunity to think about where is our hope. Even if it's almost dead, it's never going to die. The other point I want to make is here about contra antitia. So Capricorn and Gemini have a contra antitia relationship in the sky because they both are the same distance away from those solstice points. Ptolemy says in Tetrabiblos, chapter 18, book 1, that when you have this contra antitia relationship, those signs behold each other. They can actually see each other. Others in the tradition, like Firmicus, say you really need a degree-based antitia relationship or contra antitia relationship to have that exchange. And the thing about this chart is that Jupiter and Venus have a contra antitia relation by degree in this chart, because Jupiter is at 23 degrees 30 degree minutes Capricorn, and Venus is at 7 degrees 5 degree minutes Gemini. So Jupiter and Venus make this direct exchange in the sky through contra antitia. And Venus is a newly direct day star. Venus is finding renewed movement in the sky, now moving forward in the zodiac. So Venus has some strength here, and I think Venus and Jupiter together are kind of a hidden way to kind of access the energy of this moment. Also remember, the moon and Venus rule the eclipse by Earth triplicity rulership, depending on if it's day or night where you're at. And so this Venusian kind of angle, remember, Venus signifies desire and love, according to Vedas Valens, Trans Riley. And Jupiter signifies the same thing, according to Valens. Jupiter indicates desire and love. And I just went to the dictionary here. What does hope mean, according to the dictionary? Well, it's a feeling or expectation and desire for a particular thing to happen. So this is our hope. Venus and Jupiter are the planets of hope. What do we desire about the future? And I'm thinking here noble desires, like I want to help people, I want to love, I want to be there for my family, I want to be there for my clients. These are the hopes, our dreams and hopes and visions, and they never die, they never go away, we always have access to them. This is a moment where in the midst of an eclipsed moon and a difficult kind of destabilizing feature to the astrology, let's not let that hope get destroyed, because we need it there for when these skies clear up. That hope is going to propel, drive, and set the table for our activity. And I have here, I tweeted this yesterday, that holding on to hope in this moment is less a magical injection of will, and it's more of grasping onto something, attaching onto something as a means to ride a wave of a potentially unstable moment. Eclipses are unstable, right? But we can hold on to that hope and know there's another side here where we will have a renewed vigor. One of my favorite Leonard Cohen lyrics, this is from his song The Future, he says, "But love's the only engine of survival." Capricorn is of the night sect, right? It's a night sign, and you have the Venus and Moon triplicity rulership, and those are two planets of love and earth. The fixed star that this eclipse conjoins is this star Acela. The thing about this is the star right under the armpit of the Archer in the sky, and Vivian Robson, the British fixed star astrologer, says that Acela is of the influence of Jupiter and Mercury. He's talking about Ptolemy there. It gives fortune and happiness. And if it's with the moon, there's new friends, valuable gifts, love and respect for women. So again, you have this theme of hope. And because it's eclipsed, these things might be under pressure, right? Our dreams and hopes. And that's why I was so focused earlier on finding hope, not losing sight of hope. Mercury, when it comes to hope, is there's this mercurial side of hope, right? Tricksterism, deception. Sometimes there's false hope. Sometimes there's putting too much into hope and not taking care of problems in the present. I want to think about this as steadying the aim, right? The muscles under the armpit, the oblique muscle, is actually when you're firing a bow. That oblique muscle allows you to move and aim that bow. You need those muscles to aim. And you also have to use those muscles against interference from things like the wind with that aiming. And so this is not a time to take your shot. This is a moment of steadying aim against destabilized interference. Taking the shot will come later, or releasing that arrow will come later. So over the next astrological fortnight, the big theme is this cardinal cross and these hard aspects in the cardinal signs. Mars will square Mercury on the 8th of July. The Sun will oppose Jupiter on 14 July. The Sun opposes Saturn on 21 July. There's a dynamic initiation that comes with cardinal sign pressure, right? Cardinal signs are the beginnings of things. And I think that sometimes we have to take action to release pressure. And pain can produce movement. There's a transit on the 13th of July. I wanted to point out here, this is when the Aries moon, it's the first Aries moon that will activate the Mars-Saturn square, and it makes a T-square with the Sun opposing Jupiter and then the moon squaring both Jupiter and the Sun. This is a moment in time that I think will really activate some of these themes for you of this cardinal pressurization. The other transit is the 20 July transit, where the moon and sun will both form oppositions with Jupiter and Saturn respectively. The moon is in Cancer, Saturn is in Capricorn. They're both domiciled. So again, it's an opposition in cardinal signs where you have powerful domiciled planets fighting each other. I think with the restrictive features of Saturn, you need to find that inner light, particularly in your home environment. How can your home support you in retaining your inner light and your spiritual light? That's the great challenge of this opposition. The Taurus moon, 13 July through 16 July, I have here is going to be kind of a ray of hope. It escapes the cardinal cross, and it's a waning Taurus moon, so this might be a good time to rest, relax, hibernate, wind down with the pleasures and comforts of your environment or the people you love. One final point of mundane astrology. At this degree, 14 Capricorn, 13 degrees Capricorn, there's been two eclipses in our recent history. 5 July 2001, there was a lunar eclipse at 14 Capricorn. And what happened in 11 September 2001, 9/11 attacks? Well, on 4 January 2011, there was a solar eclipse in this same degree, 14 Capricorn. And several months later, on 2nd May 2011, it was the reported death of Osama bin Laden. And so this theme of terrorism has shown itself to be attached to this eclipse degree. Let's see if something like this reemerges, even around this transaction of facts in the next few months. Cardomancy pull, this is the indecision card. Moon in Aquarius. This is the last decan in Aquarius, and this is one where I think it makes a lot of sense as we understand the significations of the moon. You know, the moon is movement, the moon is the body. It's something that moves quickly in the sky. It likes to go from place to place. There's a great changeability with the moon. Aquarius is fixed air, so it's getting set in your way of thinking, right? And then wanting to establish new thought and stay in that idea set. There's two ways to go with this here. One way is to be a little less rigid with your thought. With this decan and with this card, the 7 of spades. The other way would be to kind of let go of your desire to flirt around with the mind and just settle in to maybe one fixed point. In meditation, we stop moving the body, we focus on the breathing. And that fixed point can kind of still the mind and make it even less imperative to decide anything. All right, as always, you can book a donation-based reading with me, Astrology for All, sjanderson144.com. And this is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, other podcast players. Find this audio there if that's how you prefer to listen. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at sjanderson144.